everyone to eLearning Championpod, hosted by CommLab India. I'm your host Tanushree, and today we are diving into the interesting world of AI leveraged blended learning for rapid upskilling and reskilling of employees. Joining me in this interesting session is Shalini, Director of Learning Solutions. Welcome to the podcast, Shalini.
Thanks, Tanushree, and a very warm welcome to all our viewers. It's a delight to have you listening in to us.
Right. So today's podcast will be focusing on what is blended learning and what is the role of AI in blended learning. So, because lately we have been hearing that AI is the latest disruption in the L&D space.
Right.
So, could you share your thoughts on that?
Sure, Tanushree. So, to begin with, I'd like to say this is the most exciting time to be in L&D. Because a lot of things I used to struggle with earlier, for instance, creating learning experiences in multiple formats has now become so easy with AI tools supporting us at every stage. Now, I'm sure all our listeners will agree that blended learning is the way forward because there's no one delivery format that meets all our requirements. There's no one size fits all solution. So, blended learning is increasingly in the focus, and I'd like to just talk about a couple of things. You mentioned upskilling and reskilling. So to set the context for this session, I'd like to share one interesting statistic from the Future of Work report brought out by the World Economic Forum. In that it said that in the next 5 years, 44% of workers' core skills will change.
Wow.
So think of it in terms of the impact for our own organizations. We all are working very hard to equip our teams with the skills they need in the here and now, today. Now, added to that is this aspect of anticipating the shifts that are going to take place in the marketplace and the kind of skills that our employees need, and having some strategy in place to address all that. So, because unless we work right now to future-proof ourselves, our teams and our organizations, we're going to lose that competitive edge in the market.
True.
Another interesting stat that I'd like to share from the same report is that 6 out of 10 people don't have adequate access to training opportunities. So think of it in terms of a team size of 10. 6 out of your 10 team members need training.
Yeah.
But only half of them have access to adequate training opportunities. So when you look at the performance, how this is going to impact the overall performance of the team and thereby the department and thereby rolling up to the organization level, the impact is huge.
Yeah.
So this is the most one of the most urgent needs of the hour, upskilling and reskilling our workforce. And this is where blended learning, which is supported by AI, is really the most efficient way forward because it helps us tackle many problems in one go.
True.
So I would say that blended learning is totally here to stay, and enabled by AI, the future is just rich with possibility.
Yeah, that sounds interesting, Shalini. And as you said, that blended learning is going to be the go-to approach for most organizations. So my next question would be what actually, could you share a little about how blended learning works and how it can actually impact the overall learning strategy, how it can fit into the overall learning strategy in today's L&D space.
Right. So the first thing I'd like to mention, which I'm sure all of us are familiar with, is that learning is a continuous process. It's not a one-off event. Now, the beauty of blended learning is that it lends itself very well to supporting learners throughout their learning journey. Because if you see training as a one-off event, you take one course, you're done. You attend one ILT, you're done.
True.
But the fact is that, learners have their learning journeys, and this is where blended learning, with its multiple modalities that are available, is best suited to support the learners. So that is one part of it. The other is that I'm sure all of us are familiar with the 70-20-10 model, which talks about how employees really learn.
Yes.
With 70% being on-the-job training, 20% being social learning, and 10% being formal training. Of course, the exact ratios differ organization from organization. And now, increasingly, L&D is looking at how best can we leverage each of these components.
Right.
So, if you look at on-the-job training, there were traditional ways of doing it. Job shadowing, mentoring, job rotation, stretch assignments, and so on. But now, with there is a great scope and possibility to make a lot of learning experiences available to learners even during their on-the-job learning part. It could be just something as simple as a short video which takes you through a series of steps. And then coming to the social learning, a lot of organizations are now increasingly leveraging this because that's a powerful way to learn. And of course, with traditional LMSs also, there was a scope to have discussion threads and forums. But now with AI-enabled platforms, it's even better. And there are micro-learning platforms which actually enable social learning. So now where we can really leverage blended learning is gather the user-generated content and put it into different modalities, and which we can create very quickly using AI-driven tools.
Correct.
So keeping the 70-20-10 model in mind, and the fact that learning is a continuous process, I think these are some of the things that make blended learning really the way to go, as you mentioned.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting, Shalini, that how these different modalities, what you suggested or you mentioned now, can be actually mixed and matched or like blended to craft immersive learning journeys for learners.
Right.
So what do you think, that what is the biggest advantage of a blended learning solution?
Well, one, it's not monotonous. It is a little demotivating for a learner if they are just faced with one long curriculum entirely in one mode. Which is not to say that there are certain content areas where you have to stick to a certain mode. But if given a choice, and if the content and the audience, one thing I want to mention, we cannot jump into designing a blend without really studying our audience, the kind of content we have, the learning environment they are in.
Yes.
Now, if all conditions are favorable, then we have the liberty to experiment with various blends. We can mix and match various modalities. So that gives us a powerful advantage. And also, as I mentioned earlier, with AI tools in the picture, what used to take us a long time to repurpose content from one modality to another is now possible in just a matter of a few clicks. So that way we are really expanding the range of options available to our learners.
Right. So that transition has become really seamless.
Yes. And although I'm not a great fan of the learning styles theory, it is a fact that learners do have their preferences.
True.
And this is where we can have content available in various modalities to kind of go with the favorite preferences of many learners. We are more equipped to cater to a diverse learning audience.
Right.
So that is one thing. The other is, with AI, it's also easier to create personalized learning paths, provided we have the AI-driven platform, of course. And again, in the learning path, as I mentioned, it needn't be a curriculum with just one modality. There are different interesting modalities which we can mix and match. And in fact, the learner can be given the freedom to select which given modality they want to access a course in, some learning content in.
Correct.
And although this sounds like a very budget-intensive affair, it's not really, because, as I mentioned, it's very easy to create those kind of modalities now.
So that part, what I would say, that thing that you mentioned, that it's a budget-friendly affair, that's like kind of for the training managers and for the L&D pros, that's kind of a important point which
Yes.
helps them make a decision on whether they should go for blended learning or not.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So as you said that there are multiple modalities and we can use them as per the learner's needs, or rather the learner's preferences. So what are the different learning formats under the blended learning umbrella,
Right.
and how do they work? Like how does it matter to have a variety of learning formats
Right.
in your blended learning solution? And it
Right.
would be great if you could also share a few examples of a blended solution.
Sure, sure. That's an interesting question. How do we, what are all the options available? Because
Right.
every time you look at something on the net, there seems to be something new and radically different which is going viral, the kind of
Correct.
format.
Yeah.
So traditionally we used to have, of course, the classroom sessions which were blended with our e-learning.
True.
And that worked. That worked successfully. We've all been witness to that.
Yes.
But now there are a lot of avatars of e-learning.
True.
So you have your micro-learning format, you have your video-based learning, you have your simulations, you have, you mentioned gamification, and then you mentioned immersive experiences,
Yes.
AR, VR creative, which totally relies on AI.
True.
And so they, and not just that, but now we are increasingly leveraging all kinds of formats very deliberately. Podcasts, for instance, shoot an interview with an L&D expert, with an SME who just does a quick knowledge sharing session, and have that as part of your blend. And you can use the same thing to pull out core points and repurpose it as an animated video, for instance.
Yes.
So you have the live session, you have an extract of the key elements,
Correct.
and if it is something to do with a process or procedure, you can just use the same thing as an infographic. So really, this is the beauty of blended learning. It opens up, it expands our reach, it expands our creativity, and it helps us to really engage learners, because there's no one single format.
Yeah.
There's a mix of synchronous and asynchronous
Yes. Learning formats.
possible. One very successful best practice that we have leveraged for our customers is the flipped classroom.
Right.
So it's not a new concept, of course, but blended learning, done this way, we've seen is very effective. So we have the self-study component, which is in the asynchronous format. Learners go through a self-study through e-learning, or they go through some online documents, or
Right. Self-paced learning.
Basically, they set the foundation.
Yes.
So that the actual valuable face-to-face time is reserved for skill building and practice,
Right.
and also getting their questions answered by experts.
True.
So this is one thing where you set the foundation through asynchronous, then you meet up for a live session, and then you can also follow it up with any number of other modalities for performance support and so on.
Right.
So this is something that we've leveraged very successfully. Now, coming to an example of blended, of course, the one I mentioned just now, the flipped classroom, was we had used it very successfully in training first-time managers. So we had the self-study part, then we had 2 levels for the face-to-face. One was the basic skill building, the other was the advanced. So this was really a huge hit in our client organization. And another example which I recall is that of a product training we had done for salespeople, where we started with an assessment of their current capability.
Right.
Now, based on their performance in the assessment, they were directed either to an e-learning or a classroom. Those who did well in the assessment went on to the e-learning part, because there is no live instructor and they didn't need it really.
Right.
Those who were struggling, they were directed to a classroom session where a facilitator was there to provide more support.
Right.
And once both groups underwent their training in the respective modalities, there was another assessment, and it was very gratifying that those who had struggled in the initial assessment could now really do well.
Okay.
In, it was like everybody was
On the
brought,
same page.
yes.
Yeah.
And then this was followed by small videos, role play video, showing a demo of two people in action.
Okay.
Since this was sales, it was very important for them to also see the techniques.
Right.
So a negotiation skill, a short 5-minute video on a successful sales negotiation.
Role play displayed
Yes,
and in the
yes.
form of video.
So these were some of the things, and then infographics for what are the things you need to keep in mind.
Right.
And since they were using a system, they used their CRM,
Yeah.
a small simulation video also on
Oh.
what are the different things,
Right, right.
So it was, they were well supported, and the beauty was all of these were delivered through a mobile app.
Oh.
So that way, salespeople on the go could actually access all these solutions in various formats.
Right.
And this was one example I recall, which was hugely popular and very effective with our customer.
So that's great, Shalini. What I understand from whatever you have mentioned now is that the blended learning approach is a holistic approach, I would say.
Yes.
That it helps us to build a more comprehensive training solution,
Yes.
especially in today's time when we are looking for learning agility.
Correct.
And we all have different kind of learning preferences, and as you said, like for example this example that you quoted, wherein sales reps were actually they could actually access the training solutions on the go. So this is kind of a relief for the training managers and everyone. We don't have to wait to gather all the sales reps or on field staff
Yes.
to actually impart the training.
Absolutely.
And we can leverage on these blended learning solutions to train the employees.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So that was really interesting. Thank you for sharing the examples. That's really helpful. So coming to the next question, Shalini, when we look at the role of AI in learning now, so it's everywhere. AI is everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So in the learning domain also, I feel that AI is slowly making its impact, and its impact is really noteworthy.
Yeah.
So what do you think that what are the various tools or the AI tools, I would say, that can be used or it can help in different L&D functions?
Right. So I would say there are two aspects to this. One is the AI-driven platform itself,
Right.
which one can use for creating personalized learning paths
Right.
and predictive analytics, for instance,
Right.
based on learners' performance and
The AI algorithms.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And also things like AI chatbots. These are
Yeah.
all part of the thing, part of AI-driven solutions, which can also be integrated within your LMS. The chatbot, for instance, can be integrated into your regular LMS as well.
Right.
So that is one aspect, the platform-dependent, platform-based AI tools and technologies to help us enhance the effectiveness of our L&D initiative. The second part which I want to touch upon, because not every organization has invested in AI-driven platforms, because it is still a huge spend.
Yes.
The second part is something that any organization, small to mid-sized to huge organization, can leverage immediately by using AI-based authoring tools.
Oh, yeah.
So at every stage in our role as an L&D manager, we can leverage these tools.
True.
For instance, during the consulting stage, when you're talking to stakeholders and SMEs,
Right.
you can still leverage something like ChatGPT,
Yes.
something like Copilot, which will give you which can be used, the features in Teams itself to capture the minutes of a meeting.
Right.
When you're interviewing an SME or a stakeholder,
Yes.
it gives you neat captures. You can transcribe interviews with SMEs
Right.
and pull out the salient points. So it can really help you even in the upskilling and reskilling, that part. Now that is a huge investment for any L&D manager, the time taken for it.
Right.
And even if we don't have an AI-based platform, we can still leverage some of these tools to give us to condense, to consolidate requirements. You're looking at job descriptions, you're looking at responsibilities, you're looking at industry benchmarks for the similar role.
Right.
And then you can come up with a consolidated list of skills which the learner needs. So this is where we can leverage, great content tools like ChatGPT. Now that's the consulting part. Now coming to the actual design and development of learning solutions, during the design stage, in fact, I would say even the analysis part stage of the entire solution, we can use open AI tools like ChatGPT to generate content summaries, to refine the learning objectives that we have, to come up with scenarios, to support our content. So we have these in the very beginning of the design phase. Of course, the use of these tools is dictated by our organization's policy.
Right.
But many organizations are going in for licensed versions of these tools, and these being LLMs, they get trained on the data sets in the organization, and the output is so much more meaningful.
Yes.
So the only caution I would have is check your organization's policy before you leverage them. But as long as we don't share proprietary information with the AI tool, I'm talking about the free tools.
Yeah.
It's fine. Now we have licensed tools, which AI driven, which we use heavily for development, which have a very, which protect your data. The company guarantees it. The tool provider guarantees it. So there are very respected tools out there, AI-based tools. For instance, when it comes to developing training, video-based training, we have Synthesia, which is becoming increasingly popular because it uses these real-life avatars.
Right.
And with their latest release, you can also create an avatar, your own avatar. So you give it a brief recording of yourself, and it creates your AI avatar, which is fantastic.
Yes.
And then you have Beyond, which is another very popular tool because it does animated videos, and all of these are driven by prompts. So generation of the output becomes so much more easier because you give the custom prompts and you can come up with these. Now when it comes to graphics, we have Midjourney and we have Canva. Again, based on the kind of prompts you give, you can come up with meaningful output.
Right.
I'm sure all of us struggled at some point or the other, and we all always wish there was some way I could translate this image in my mind into reality.
True.
You used to feel so handicapped because everything took so much effort.
Time,
And sometimes the kind of image you had in mind, it was not possible in reality.
True.
Sometimes, for example, in gamification, you would want to introduce some fantasy element.
Correct.
And the theme you had in mind wouldn't be possible. But this is where these AI-based graphic tools really do a great job. Stability AI and all of them.
Yeah.
Photo to video effects.
Yes.
I think there was a very popular Coca-Cola ad which actually used great art. They use picture frames.
Yes.
And those morphing into real
images.
Animated images and a real person also. So that was
like something we cannot forget.
So those are the kind of mind-boggling things that we can do. But however, I do realize that a lot of our training doesn't need so many, we don't need all of that. But even for our regular standard training, these tools reduce the time taken for development significantly, and they bring in process efficiencies.
Yes.
And then there are tools for creating quizzes and assessments. I think that's one area where our teams struggle with a lot.
Really, yeah.
Now, you can specify the learning objectives, specify the Bloom's level, at what level you want to test your learners.
Right.
And these tools generate assessments and quizzes, which the instructional designer on the project can tweak, because another strong caution is we cannot take the output as is. It always requires a skilled human being who understands the domain to be able to, to ensure that the output is good, because not everything is foolproof, it being technology and that too evolving technology.
Right.
So the human handling it is still the most important player in the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is how AI is really helping.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry, before you proceed, there are some other tools also like, there was a time when translations were very expensive.
True.
And the kind of translations that the initial AI tools did was questionable. But now they have evolved so much that the accuracy is fantastic. There are a lot of tools, AI-driven tools, which do translations, which can be vetted by a real live human.
Yeah.
And then there are speech to text. Voiceovers were another bugbear.
Yeah.
Those robotic voiceovers
Yes.
earlier, they are a thing of the past now.
Right.
Now we have AI based tools generating very interesting voiceovers which totally sound human. So that's another great advantage. Well said Labs and all these.
Right.
So these are some of the possibilities, with AI based authoring and AI based production.
Yeah, sounds really interesting, Shalini, because the scope is really wide, and we all can definitely leverage these tools to make training an engaging affair, and not just like a one-time mandatory, I have to do it, that's why I'm doing it kind of. So people or employees would look forward to training now with AI leveraged blended solutions. I believe that. So my next question to you would be that what are the various learning points in the learning strategies, I would say, the different points in the learning strategy where we can use the blended learning solution?
Right. So as I mentioned, starting right from the identification of the needs, you can use some of these tools to consolidate it. If you don't have an AI-driven platform to do this for you. And then of course when it comes to the design and development of these solutions, what I just mentioned, you have this whole range of tools to support you. And then coming to another very important aspect, the data analytics. So this is where, again, an AI-based platform can work wonders. And give you lots of actionable insights. Because with AI, it's easy to spot trends and patterns and anticipate where you need to focus, to bridge this skill gaps. Even if you don't have AI, as I mentioned, we can still use some of these tools to consolidate, to feed in data and ask it to look for patterns and trends. And another interesting usage which one of our colleagues was mentioning recently is that when it comes to learning paths, with AI, you can integrate this into the LMS. It can create visualizations of these learning paths. Earlier a learner, they would have to go and look at their training history to see what all have they done. But now, in a visual way, these paths are presented through AI, and that makes it easy even for training managers to at a glance see what's possible, where learners are going, and And one more thing I want to mention. I've been talking about the LMS, but with the advent of the LXP, actually, this AI-based platform actually took shape, and the kind of recommendations an LXP gives, just like Netflix recommended, based on your viewing history, it gives you suggestions. Now all that is really useful. And one more thing is it opens up the possibility of content that is available to our learners, because not only will it pick up learning solutions from within the organization, it will also point you to maybe a LinkedIn course outside, or something else which is very useful, a YouTube tutorial on that topic. So that way, you're really expanding the borders for your learners.
True.
And also bringing in so much of, by bringing in a variety of these, which again are part of a blend, you're making it an engaging overall learning experience for our learners.
Yeah, true. So, I would say that in conclusion, we can say that this AI-enabled blended learning solutions, they are like an L&D team's best ally.
Totally.
So, as an L&D professional, what do you think? That can you sum up how we can go about this? What's our role in leveraging these blended learning solution for our employee training programs?
Right. So I think we need to keep up, with what's happening out there,
Yeah.
because the time that you spend in discovering these is going to be well worth it, because it's significantly going to cut down your design and development time going forward.
Right.
So I would say that it's good for us as L&D professionals to train our teams in the use of AI tools, and have maybe a designated person to keep a watch for what is happening out there and share those learnings back with the team.
Right.
And prompt engineering is a big
Yes.
thing, because all these tools that I mentioned, the output is only as good as the input, as good as the instructions that you give it. And it's important for us to be able to use these tools efficiently and not lose time, because if you go off on the wrong track, then again there's no you don't get that kind of advantage which the tool has promised. So be aware, try multiple tools. A lot of tools are available, in the trial versions are available.
Right.
So before you settle on a given tool, try them out, evaluate them, see what the output is, and take informed decisions, because we don't want to waste any bit of our budgets. So be careful, be alert to what's happening out there. Try to get into a community of practice, which for people who use AI and L&D, or try and join network communities of practice events.
Correct. Some forums, online forums.
Yes. For instance, as a value add to our customers, and now we've thrown it open to everybody as well. We have this online forum where, interestingly, this year the theme is entirely AI. So learnflux.
Yes.
So where we have business leaders present sessions, L&D leaders present sessions. We have workshops on how to use AI, Gen AI tools, prompt engineering, AI-based video
development tools.
Development tools. So I would say, don't just limit yourself to what the kind of training you're getting in your organization, because the onus is entirely on you as an L&D professional to grow and to make sure that your team grows, so that you can be a great business asset to your organization as a whole.
Right.
So these are some of the things. Leverage AI, use it as your assistant, and get the max out of it.
So that was pretty interesting, Shalini. Like as you said now that we have to use the tools, the AI tools and the technology or the platforms that are available, definitely with the human intervention.
Yes.
And it has to be judiciously used.
Absolutely.
So that we can make the most out of it.
Absolutely.
And take our corporate L&D initiatives to greater heights.
Totally.
Yeah. So thank you, Shalini, for this interesting session.
Thank you.
I have enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure our viewers have also liked it.
Thank you.
For more engaging and informative podcasts on trending topics, stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe. That's all from our side today. Thank you.
Thank you.